You would think that with Israel being the uh, chosen nation of God and Israelis being the chosen people of God, they wouldn't have to deal with anything whatsoever since God would be protecting them and providing everything for them. So why are they dealing with wildfires, having to fight against quote unquote enemies that they're fighting against? And why do they need to beg other nations for money when their God should be able to provide that for them, being that they're the chosen people?
Well, we're going to cross then to Jerusalem, talk to our correspondent Noga Tanopolsky, who joins us from there. Noga, how bad then, first of all, are these fires?
They're extremely bad. They're some of the worst fires, if not the worst fire in the nation's history. We still don't have a full sense of it because it's still raging and it could still expand. I don't know how much you can.
I guess sending all your resources to commit a genocide against Palestinians isn't the best idea when you also got to worry about, natural disasters happening. Why why isn't the IOF just bombing these fires?
See that the skies above Jerusalem that are normally blue and very, very clear, especially now in springtime, are just filled with dust, and the smell in the air is as if I were sitting next to a fireplace. It's been this way since yesterday with very, very powerful winds, and at the end of a winter that was a drought. And so the circumstances are particularly harsh. The other thing is today is Independence Day in Israel, normally celebrated with barbecues, with people.
Independence Day, where who did they fought against to gain their independence? Like nobody. Why do they need an Independence Day?
Having little, marshmallows on the fire. The entire country has been shut down. Trains between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem aren't working. There's no public transportation. The roads are very iffy. Most have been closed. There have been tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people evacuated, and the fires are not yet under control.
All I'm hearing is like whine, whine, whine. Like it's a wildfire. Just put water on it. I mean, with the uh amount of resources the Israeli government is getting from other nations, this shouldn't be an issue for them.
How are the authorities trying to respond to this then, Noga?
Well, they're doing a pretty hapless job of it. I want to tell you, there's a lot of criticism, heavy criticism against the government for having been unprepared, especially after the Israeli fire chief said that this was an entirely predictable result of climate change that was known about. The other
Climate change, doesn't she mean like God is controlling everything since, God controls the weather? Humans can't control the weather because only God can?
thing is that Israel suffered 10 years ago from a different fire, forest fire, but a terrible fire up north in Haifa. And the results of that, the investigation of that fire, the results of that investigation were never put into place. Prime Minister Netanyahu was prime minister back then, appears to have entirely ignored the recommendations, and now Israel's in a position of basically having been making phone calls all night to countries as far away as Argentina, begging for help. Israel does not have.
Wow, that's hilarious how they're begging for help from every other nation around the world while they're committing genocide and begging for help from other nations to help them commit a genocide. Again, you would think that with them being, the quote unquote chosen people of God, that stuff like this wouldn't happen, or they would be able to easily uh, stop it because God would be there to stop it for them. But I guess not.
Sufficient airplanes that can dump water on these massive fires. In addition, the very heavy winds made air power almost impossible. So it's a tricky situation, and the government is trying to basically turn what's a wrecked Independence Day into some sort of facade of